Hello everybody, welcome to the Base Network. I'm your host, Israel Populum. Do not mind me, I'm holding my mic because my other mic broke and I'm with this other broken mic, but at least this one works-ish. Bear with me here, technical difficulties, but we actually have an amazing story for you tonight. Amazing, maybe not, but definitely interesting. Obviously, as everyone here watching this probably knows, early after the new year, Donald Trump was able to arrest Nicolas Maduro, securing Venezuela for America. Now, a lot of people think this is about democracy or about narco-terrorism charges, but if you're really paying attention, you know it's about getting those resources before the New World Order is established. Now, I know it sounds like Alex Jones here, but I have a very specific meaning by that, and we'll get into it soon. The United States was able to secure the largest oil reserves in the world, and a lot of people don't know this, but Venezuela has a huge gold reserves. They have some silver reserves. Now, obviously, I'm against the regime change war in Venezuela. Not that I support Nicolas Maduro or any ruthless dictator across the planet. I'm just very skeptical of regime change in general. We're like, what, 0-50? Like, I mean, who's even counting here? How many governments we've toppled, destabilized, took over for economic interests, not necessarily democratic interests. That's kind of where we lay there. I'm very skeptical. I really doubt this is going to turn out well, but at the end of the day, again, we're talking strategy here, just like my last video. We're not here to, overly piss ourselves over being how pissed we are that, America's an empire. I mean, like, well, that's kind of how shit works now. Yesterday, on Tuesday, on January 6th, Karen Leavitt, the press secretary of Donald Trump, came out and said that they're looking at Greenland. I have a quote. It's a synopsis from Ground News. The White House said it's considering a range of options to acquire Greenland and that utilizing the U.S. military is always an option at the commander-in-chief's disposal. Now, it is like Trump to leave everything on the table and posture like a madman. That's kind of his forte. That's kind of his strategy. We see that a lot. But this is kind of striking to the heart of a lot of people. This is scaring a lot of other countries, particularly because of the aggressive action we took in Venezuela. We mean game. These resources are important for our national security. That's what Donald Trump is saying, at least. And that's the posture they're going towards. And if it's in the interest of national security, they don't doubt that Donald Trump will actually do it. To continue, senior officials say options under discussion include buying Greenland or forming a compact-free association with the United States military presence in Greenland, reflecting long-standing security ties. Now, a little bit later, after those statements, on January 6th, same day yesterday, European leaders issued a joint statement backing Denmark and Greenland after reviewing U.S. interests in President Donald Trump, saying, and quote, Greenland belongs to its people, and decisions belong to Denmark and Greenland alone. Now, Trump's posturing towards Greenland is nothing new. If you paid attention during the early year of 2025, around January, Donald Trump Jr. and Charlie Kirk, the late Charlie Kirk, rest in peace, went to Greenland and did a rally. Now, I have a quote here from Trump Greenland's Problem by Adam Furman, which is an article that was written by Adam Furman. He says, and quote, the Trump team in typical fashion claimed victory after the visit, citing support from locals in Nuuk, which is the city that they went to. I think it's the most populated city, and I can barely pronounce it. Sorry, Greenland. That's going to be called New York once we take that shit. Sorry to tell you that. Quickly distributing a polished campaign-style video. But Politico, the Washington Post, and Danish news outlet DR News have reported that the visit was at least part staged, and many of the MAGA hat-wearing residents who dined with the president's son were living on the margins and essentially been bribed to attend. So they basically got homeless people, put MAGA hats on them, and gave them a free meal. That's basically what happened there. And again, it's propaganda, and again, propaganda doesn't always have to be fake. Propaganda just has to be there at the right time. So if we're looking at this, Donald Trump obviously had a very strong vision to take Greenland. Now, there are definitely ulterior motives. It's not just natural resources. And Adam actually goes further into the article and talks about something that I think is very important. So I'm going to continue there. Sorry if this is a literature-heavy video here. But I think it's important to lay the groundwork so you can understand where I'm coming from when I get to my thesis after this. So he continues later in the article. As part of its size, remoteness, and low population density, only 56,000 people live in Greenland, and has also been an object for desire for some Silicon Valley brokers interested in establishing a kind of libertarian playground outside of the United States. Billionaire Palantir co-founder, and again, these names get popped up. These names pop up everywhere when you start reading, when you start paying attention. So remember these names and remember these companies that are constantly being this malicious actor. Billionaire Palantir co-founder and Trump fundraiser Joe Losdale told BBC that Greenland resources could be an enormous benefit to the United States. An implicit invocation of earlier eras of U.S. expansionism that having, quote, having a frontier is very healthy. Some have gone further. Dyron Brown, whose company Patrick's, I'm going to go Patrick's because I like Patrick Star, raised millions as part of a scheme to create a privately funded city in the Mediterranean. Traveled to Greenland in 2024, so again, before the propaganda tour that they did in Greenland, and described the island as an actual frontier that can serve as a sandbox for terraformation. Maybe that's going to be good for Greenland, maybe not. Maybe it's going to be for their own interests, which if you look historically, that's kind of what ends up happening. But if we continue, right, it's like, oh, why is this propaganda? Isn't Greenland, valuable for the United States? And I would say yes. I mean, Greenland would be very valuable for the United States. I'm going to go into the type of resources they have a little bit later in this video. When I say propaganda, again, it's the way the government manipulates you to getting to push their agendas. If you remember, a lot of people don't remember this, but during this whole Greenland visit, Charlie Kirk came back and he told this very obviously fake story that this kid walked up to him, walked out of a cave, dusty, and had a softball-sized ruby in his hand and showed him. He was like, the Danish government doesn't let us mine these. They're destroying us. And it's like, I really doubt that even fucking happened. And I'll play the clip here just so you can understand what I'm talking about.
A young boy comes up. He says, Charlie. I said, oh, hey, how are you? He says, I follow you on TikTok. I need to show you something. He shows me his phone. He says, in my village 3 hours from here, when we just kind of go out into the countryside, we find rubies the size of baseballs. I said, what? He said, we have rubies the size of baseballs in my village. Now, mind you, they're not as valuable as you might think because they need to be cut a certain way and they lose value, but they're very valuable. And he says, the Danes don't let us mine our rubies, our gold, our lithium, or our gas. He said, it's time for a rebellion against the Danes. The younger people of Nuuk, the younger people of Greenland, they want to be rich. And oh my goodness, do they have wealth in Greenland. America should want those resources for our country, and Greenland should want them for their country. We'd be far more willing and able to develop them than Denmark and the socialist Greta Thunberg environmentalists from Copenhagen.
But it's an obviously fake story. Recipe Charlie Kirk, I don't want to hate on him too much, but you can't defame the dead, okay? And it was an obviously fake story. And you have to realize, why is this being pushed to you? So let's continue. We even have a little bit more evidence here. Adam continues, and he says, there are less direct and equally concerning ties to other figures in the orbit as well. Trump's pick to serve as the ambassador for Denmark, Ken Howry, co-founded PayPal alongside right-wing billionaire Peter Thiel, another libertarian type, and again, very strange thing. The guy says very strange. He pops up almost everywhere. He's the funder of JD Vance. We have to understand this PayPal mafia is a real thing. When JD Vance, again backed by Peter Thiel, was going to become the vice president of the United States before he came, you have to remember, before JD Vance was actually running to be the vice president, and before his name was kind of everywhere, he was a super anti-Trump guy. He was basically calling him a Nazi. And it's important to say that because when his opinions shift, because they're pushing JD Vance as the next politician, and he's being groomed as such. Peter Thiel funded his college. Peter Thiel gave him a lot of money during his book tour. So, and again, by what I mean by that is that JD Vance was basically working for a company. Either Peter Thiel owned the company or a friend of Peter Thiel owned the company, and he was basically there working. And people who worked there at the same office claim that JD Vance would never show up. He would collect a paycheck, and he was on his book tour the entire time. It was like White Boy Elegy or something like that. I forgot. Or Hillbilly Elegy. That's his name. That's the book's name. Where again he goes into Trump and all. JD Vance is obviously groomed. The person putting the battery in his back is Peter Thiel, and continues here. Thiel in turn has donated to Patrick's, which is the company I talked about before, and I guarantee that's not how you say it, but that's kind of how I like it spelled, Praxis project. And is a key figure in the so-called network statement movement, online communities that seek to build physical cities or, in theory, a nation-state outside of traditional modes of government, in which suggested that with Trump's return to the White House, the crowd seeking to bring ideas of privatized governance to fruition is amusing real political power. Now, again, when they say outside the scope of government, when they say a libertarian utopia, what they truly mean is an oligarchy that's controlled by the richest people there, and they have complete control to do kind of whatever they want. That's what they mean by that. So, again, it's important to realize the players behind Trump, because kind of acts by proxy for his donors. He's a pretty donor-heavy person, and no, a lot of Trump supporters will go, but he's so rich, he doesn't have to take money from the donors. Wake up. It's not 2016 anymore, okay? You know what I mean? Donald Trump is a very funded person, so that's very important to realize that. And again, it's not just to make this utopia, it's also to secure America's dominance globally. So again, they do have a lot of critical resources in Greenland, which is going to be very important for the AI Cold War. And I'll explain what that is a little bit later. I had a previous video where I talked about it, but I'll explain it in this video as well. So just stay in there. I have a list of natural resources Greenland has. It's basically a treasure chest. Its zone is coming in. You got to rotate. You just pop up. You hear... Where's the shit start breaking everything? You just see an amazing chest. You open it up and it's just a golden scar. Like, that's Greenland right now, basically. So it has a lot of rare earth minerals. So you have graphite, zinc, lead, copper, nickel, iron ore, tungsten, titanium, palladium, uranium, and they have a lot of uranium too. And again, another thing with the uranium, we're going to start getting into a nuclear age where we need to power these big data centers are taking up a lot of power, a lot of energy. So we're going to have to start building mini nuclear reactors. So that's going to be important too in the future. And again, they have a lot of precious metals like gold, silver, platinum, and palladium. So comically sized softball rubies, diamonds. They also have a lot of energy. So they have oil and natural gases. Offshore, they have estimated 50 billion barrels of oil. Again, it's treasure chest. There's a lot of materials there. And the reason that's important, especially those precious metals and oil, is because we're getting into an AI Cold War. And we're starting to shift towards a new world order, a multipolar world order. And what I mean by that is that America is no longer the dominant superpower, right? We had a dual world order, which was basically America and Russia, or the Soviet Union, battled a lot. And they had a Cold War to see who had global dominance. And as of, since 1990, we've had complete dominance over the world. Now, we're going into a new age with a new world order because it's going to shift the power. Now, what I mean by that is AI is like the new nuclear bomb. And what I mean by that is the nuclear bomb was first, dropped into the server, right? When we first got the nuclear bomb, when Oppenheimer was there, master of death, destroyer of worlds, with the demon quote, amazing quote. It really shifted the world order because America had this chip and this bargaining chip that they could really do whatever they want, because at the end of the day ends and they can nuke the shit out of you. Since then, obviously, since that is such a big threat to other countries, every other country scrambled to get nuclear weapons. That's why Iran is pushing so heavily to get nuclear weapons, and they're trying to posture as if they can create one because Israel has one, and they need to defend themselves. It's the reason why all these other countries got nuclear weapons, like the Soviet Union, when Israel went and sold our nuclear secrets to them. But, that's a whole other story for a different day. But it's important to have these types of technologies because you don't want to drop behind in terms of other countries. And something like the nuclear bomb is so devastating because it really is a game ender. Like, they could really destroy your entire country. One country could destroy your country if they have a disagreement. And if you don't have the same capability, you can't do anything about it. So when they come into negotiation, they basically throw you around, no problem. Now, in terms of with AI, this is the new version of that, where if you have a superior AI from other countries, you basically dominate them. And again, with AI, when you have a stronger AI, it's a compounding effect. The stronger AI you have, the stronger it can become. So it's very important to get on this on the ground level. That's why Donald Trump is trying to limit AI regulation to a countrywide thing, so that new world order is established and the levels of countries that are stronger is established. America must make sure that they have resources in order to fuel this AI revolution. And what I mean by that is, for example, with Taiwan. Taiwan is very important strategically to the United States because they have a large portion of the semiconductor industry. They make a lot of chips. Now, chips are important because you need fuel for these AI data centers are chips, from Taiwan. And these chips need natural resources to be made. And one of the bigger natural resources they need, gold, silver, gallium, or gallium is really used for like radar, military stuff. And China holds a huge portion of those resources. China owns 60% of the silver market globally. And with China specifically, in the new year, 2026, they came out and they said they're going to start restricting the silver supply. And that's not good for the United States because that threatens their national security. And the reason it threatens their national security is because you need these resources to make these chips. And these chips are needed for these data centers. And these data centers are needed for AI. And AI is needed to secure American dominance. Because if another country gets a stronger AI than us, number one, the compounding effect with the intelligence could be disastrous for the United States. And on top of that as well, it again is the new nuclear bomb. It's the new destabilizer, because if you have a stronger AI than another country, when it comes to discussion, you have a big thing there. So again, the reason why America is posturing towards Greenland and needs Greenland is because of this further threat. So again, it's not as simple as just the fact that these billionaires and these special interests need these resources for money reasons, because that's what's happening in Venezuela as well. Donald Trump said that he let the special interests know that he was going to attack before Congress, if that explains it to you, okay? Because he wanted American companies to come in and drill all the oil from Venezuela. So that's about it for today. I wanted to keep this video a little bit shorter because I think it's pretty clear cut what I'm trying to say here. Again, so this video is not really a defense of militarily intervening in Greenland or military intervening in Venezuela. I just wanted to look like strategically of why the United States would want to do this, because again, we're getting into a new world order. Technology is the destabilizer, and we need to scramble and make sure that America is in a strong position when these things happen. Now, whether or not regime change is the answer, I completely disagree, because it's been shown that over time that fails, and we should look towards a China-like policy where we come in and invest in these areas, and not needing to military intervene, and not needing to posture and support countries like Israel, just for stated goal of we are dominant in this region, when all it does is make people hate America. And this kind of posturing is going to get people to start turning against America. And if, for example, with this Greenland thing, when you go in and you threaten Greenland, it makes Denmark scared, it makes Greenland scared, it makes NATO scared, and they're important allies for this new world order. And if you look at it from this perspective, you start to see that this doesn't really help us, it really damages us, right? We put a target on our back. And that's the way I think about it. If you disagree, let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. If you like these types of videos, please like, comment, subscribe. Thank you so much. This is the Base Network with Israel Populum. Peace.